already, so let's talk about command economies, mandated subsidies, and how will it affect your economy. Essentially, mandated subsidies will punish you really hard for having any kind of over or underpriced goods. Overpriced, kind of okay. However, if any kind of your consumer goods or final goods or pretty much any goods is underpriced, your nation will go bankrupt really quickly. So the more underpriced good you have, the faster your nation will essentially go bankrupt. Overpriced will also have a pretty big impact as well. However, if we do not have any over or underpriced goods, so the price fluctuations on our goods are kept within like a 10% margin, and we have never caused any workforce shortages, so our wage our level is pretty much just averages around 6 across all industries. Mandated subsidies will just not have will pretty much not have an impact. Essentially, you will just not pay out any subsidies since your economy will be healthy on its own. However, come 1.2, the government wage share will pretty much guarantee that even if you have a lot of under or overpriced goods, you will not go bankrupt because you will just be eating up all the dividends. So yeah. So moving on to analysis, what does subsidizing an industry actually do? First, it will increase our industry's wage to normal wage by subsidizing it. So as we can see here, before we subsidize, if we turn off subsidizing, the wage level in this industry is 0.05, which gives us a 0.805 wage for laborers and 0.34 wage for capitalists. Now, if we turn on subsidizing, now it will be increased to our normal wage, which is 6.35. The difference is made up from our treasury, essentially. As we can see here, it's paying the industry is paying the workers 200, and the wage we are subsidizing is 22,000 essentially. And now everyone is getting a really high wage. And this is kind of similar to how minimum wage works. However, it's a bit different in the sense that minimum wage will actually impact your actual wage level. So your wage will go up a bit from when you enact minimum wage, your wage will actually go up a bit. If you saw my last video on minimum wage, before I enacted minimum wage, I think it was 6.4. After I did it, it became 6.55. So you and on the other hand, subsidizing doesn't increase your actual wage level. So your actual wage level is just gonna stay at 0.05. It's just that your government is paying out 22K to make the industry be able to function. It will also make up for any deficits your industry is suffering from. So in this case, our industry here, the coal mine here, isn't really suffering from a deficit. It's actually making money under the current prices. So right now, it's not benefiting from our second effect of subsidizing. However, if we move on to an industry that has its production goods underpriced. Oh, by the way, this safe, it's just I made it using console commands to test out stuff, so you are gonna see a lot of weird stuff going on here. So don't mind it. We're just looking at what's going on here. Like as we can see, if we have a good that's underpriced, that means we have to subsidize whatever loss the industry is suffering from. In this case, it's 146K. So these are essentially the two actual effects of minimum wage, like of subsidies. It doesn't have any additional special effects or anything. This is all it does. It takes money from your treasury and it gives it to industries. That's all, nothing else. So now, what are some side effects of subsidizing? Like these are the direct effects, and now we're talking about what happens when we actually do this in society. So side effects of subsidizing is that wage will not change due to minimum standard of living not being met or deficits caused by price fluctuations. So essentially we can see here the actual wage level of this industry is staying at 0.05 even though it's actually making more money than we're paying it. So essentially because the workers in the industry doesn't really because the workers in the industry have their minimum standard of living met, the industry will not increase its wage because subsidies exist. So essentially, we're just paying money for this coal mine to make money, even though it can actually make money on its own. So that's the first effect, and also like any kind of price fluctuation, it will also not change the wage. As we can see here, the wage level in this tools factory is actually 10.41, higher than our normal wage. So, but because we're subsidizing it, the wage level is sticking around. It's the same. So we're essentially paying more money than we actually need to make sure this industry functions. Because this industry will be able to function under a wage of 6. It will the wage, the workers' minimum standard of living will still be met. So the only reason that the wage level is at 10 is because we're subsidizing it. All right. So moving on, our industry again will not fire anyone anymore. Since it will not be in a deficit. Essentially, your industry only starts firing people when its cash reserve reaches a decently low level. I am not exactly sure what level is it, but when your cash reserve reaches a certain level, it will start firing people. As we can see here, if we just take off the subsidies, it doesn't immediately start firing people. Like as we can see, it's maintaining the workforce, right? When does it start firing people? It will only really start firing people when our cash reserve reaches like lower than half. Now it starts firing people. And if we subsidize it again, boom, it's gonna hire to full again. However, do note that when we subsidize, the cash reserve doesn't actually go up again. It's gonna stay there because it's not turning a profit anymore. And also we can see that now the wage increased. And now, as you can notice, the amount of subsidies we are paying actually decreased because the wage decreased. Okay, so moving on, industries will not fire anyone. However, other industries can still hire from a subsidized industry with a raise. So as we can see, oh shoot, I forgot to open that up. So let us quickly open defines. Raise. Actually, let's do this. Oh shoot, no, raise. Find the files, go for it. So as we can see here, raise. Wait, building raise. Oh. As we can see here, if another industry wants to hire from a certain industry, it needs to provide a raise of greater than 10%. So that means as long as other industries are able to provide a wage higher than 10%, boom, it's gonna be able to still steal pops from this industry. So this is what kind of creates the wage spiral of death. Essentially, when we have two subsidized industries, if I have like say a coal mine here and a tools workshop here, per se, these two industries, if one of them is not fully hired and we have a workforce shortage in this state, these two will keep competing will keep raising their wage to compete for the workforce, right? And as they raise their wage, they are not in a deficit because you're subsidizing both industries. So both industries will just keep raising their wage and on and create a death spiral. And yeah, that's pretty much how death spiral is created. So let's move on. The next point that we are gonna talk about is misconceptions I have seen is subsidizing a waste of money. So we have two effects of subsidizing, right? We subsidize the wage and then we make up for any deficits. So the first effect, no, it's not a waste of money. Essentially, you are just transferring money from your treasury back into the economy through wage. So you're essentially just taxing less. So is taxing less a waste of money? No, it's not. You are just changing how money in your economy is distributed. It's not a waste of money. It's nothing. It's just changing distribution. Now, the second effect, this making up for any deficit of the industry, making up for any deficit the industry is suffering from a waste of money. Yes, it kind of is. If the prices of goods in your market is imbalanced at like 0%, you are wasting up to 25% of the subsidizing money by subsidizing due to how the pricing formula works. I'm not gonna go into that in details, but essentially you're kind of like wasting 25% of the subsidizing money. Like when you have a 100%, like when your goods is 100%, like 75% overpriced or 75% underpriced. However, that's actually caused by you're not planning out your economy properly. Like, subsidizing isn't causing the waste here. The waste is caused by you purposely overproducing a certain good, and hence causing the profitability, the productivity of such said industry to drop. That's the actual cause. That's not like subsidizing is only making the issue a bit more severe by, well, subsidizing it. So yes, kind of it makes the issue a bit more severe. Your industry won't really want to fire anyone anymore, so it's gonna maintain the production level to keep the cost of the output good low. So yeah, it does kind of waste money in that sense. However, it the primary cost is still the player, not the subsidizing part. All right, so how do we minimize the impact of mandated subsidies? So how do we minimize the subsidies that we pay out? Essentially, we just make sure we do not create any wage competition between industries, so our wage stays low at a level of around 6. By making sure that our wage stays low, well, by making sure that our wage stays like at all our industries have a level of 6, we like essentially our industries will have a wage level 6, that means our normal wage will also be 6. So that means our industry, like when we do subsidize the industry, it's gonna not pay out any money in terms of wage subsidies because the wage is all the same, right? Everyone's 6. Of course, you're not gonna get like a perfectly even wage. So yes, you will still be paying out a bit of wage subsidies, but as long as you make sure you have enough qualified peasants who work in factories, your normal wage will stay pretty low at 6, and you will not be paying out a lot in wage subsidies. Also, by keeping the prices of our industrial goods at base price, not cheaper or more expensive, it will also minimize our waste due to pricing. And as long as we do not overproduce any civilian goods, so by keeping our consumer goods production balanced toward our buy packages, which is this, like the demand, essentially the demand structure of your economy. Like if you have a capitalist economy, you will have a lot of luxury goods demand. If you have a, let's say, Council Republic economy, your structure will look something like this, with only 23% luxury goods and a lot of service and some standard clothing, that kind of stuff. So as long as you keep your consumer goods production balanced towards your market's demand structure, it's gonna be fine. You are not gonna pay out a lot in subsidies, and your treasury will be great. Also, consider low. If you are overproducing on goods such as furnitures, glassworks, or standard clothing. So furniture, glass, or standard clothing, you can consider lowering the primary production methods in order to decrease the ratio between the luxury goods and the clothing good and common goods. Essentially, this is kind of what you will have to do if you are in a capitalist society where you have a really high luxury goods demand, where you have a really high luxury goods demand, but and really low common good demand. So in that case, you can consider lowering your primary production methods. However, this does lower your GDP a bit, and it's not exactly optimal in some sense in terms of our construction efficiency and stuff like that. So yeah. However, if you are a capitalist society, you don't really have a mandated subsidy, so that's not an issue at all. So as long as we do all of the above, we will be literally paying little to nothing to like in subsidies. Like we're just not gonna pay a lot in subsidies if we keep all the prices of our goods even. Like the only reason I'm paying like a ton in subsidies here right now is because I have a ton of uneven pricing here. Like I purposely created this save to create a super uneven pricing just so like I can spam out the highest single state standard of living that I can get to. I mean the highest standard of living a pop can get to, which is like 90-ish. I am not 100% of the way there. Like I just gave up after 88. There are a lot of room to optimize. All right, so enough of side talks, and come patch 1.2, as command economy will give us a 100% government share on dividends. What we will get from command economy will essentially greatly outweigh what we pay on in subsidies, at which point we'll need to actually figure out how to spend all that money, but that's going to be outside of the scope of this video. Also, as we have an active command economy, we will also be able to like maintain our. We will also be able to not pay out. Like we'll also be able to have a decent amount of overpriced or underpriced good in our market because we just get a lot more money to pay out in subsidies, right? We control a bigger portion of our economy. So yeah, that's pretty much that. Mandated subsidies is not a big issue as long as you have planned out your economy properly. If you are having issues from mandated subsidies, it's mostly because you just didn't plan stuff out properly. So yeah, that's pretty much that. If you got any questions, feel free to post them in the comment section. If you have any comments on what I said here, like if I'm wrong, if I'm right, if you agree, if you don't agree, feel free to post them as well. Alrighty, so that's pretty much that. Bye bye.